Spain are just different.
Oh, it's bouncing around in there. That was Laporte. Oh, they're going to score. It is Oyarzabal. Here they come again. Lamine Yamal.
They have now gone 37 games in a row without losing.
That's what I'm trying to say to you is it doesn't matter if Baena plays, if it's Nico Williams, if it's whoever it is, they know what they need to do since they are 9 years old. So it doesn't matter who comes, who doesn't come in, they know. That's what I'm talking about. Who are you? What's your philosophy? What's your identity? So when the guy comes in, even if it's first cap, second cap, or third cap, he knows the system because they play in the same system. It's pretty simple, right? When you hear about it and when you see what they did. But you need to think about it.
Now, I'll be honest with you guys. Before the tournament began, I thought people were overhyping Spain. Like all the betting companies and people that do odds had them as the favorites before a ball had even been kicked. I thought that was too much hype because I understood that they won the 2024 Euros and they made it to the final of the 2025 Nations League. But to me, this didn't seem like the same team that dominated Euro 2024. You had Lamine Yamal coming off an injury that happened very close to the World Cup. You had Nico Williams, who had not looked like that version of himself for a while. Again, another player that was dealing with injuries the entire 2025-2026 season. You had Rodri, who had won a Ballon d'Or that year, but since then had gone through a major hamstring injury. Then you had Unai Simon in goal, who had not been doing that great at Athletic Club. So my view was that this isn't the same team that we saw 2 years ago. And the other national teams had gone better. France were significantly better than the team that we saw at the Euros. But game by game, I understood that these gambling sites, these other people knew something that I didn't. Because as the tournament has progressed, Spain have just become more and more dominant. If you guys remember, they didn't start the World Cup well. They tied Cape Verde 0-0, and they got a lot of hate and criticism for it. Of course, looking back now, that was actually a decent result against that Cape Verde super team, considering those guys almost knocked out Argentina. But at the time, it looked like a very toothless performance. They didn't look that great in front of goal. They created a lot of chances, but they couldn't convert it. Now, yes, a big reason for that was that Vozinha had the game of his life, but in general, it was not a performance that put a lot of confidence in those people that thought Spain would go all the way.
Cape Verde, the tournament debutant, just holding the Euro champion Spain to a 0-0 draw. It wasn't an easy day for Spain today. Couldn't find the back of the net either, Robbo.
No, they couldn't. I mean, they started off slowly. They thought they could just pass their way through. They couldn't do that. They brought on substitutes. They tried to sling more balls into the box. There was one or two chances they had, but you have to give credit also to Cape Verde, who defended for their lives. They were athletic, they were strong, they were physically good, and they made it difficult for Spain.
Now, their second match was significantly better. They absolutely dominated Saudi Arabia. 4-0, Oyarzabal looking like the Spanish R9 again, Lamine Yamal getting on the score sheet, and in that match, okay, they look like favorites. They look like a team that could go all the way. But then the third game, a similar thing. They grinded out a 1-0 result against Uruguay, and that was it. It wasn't the prettiest of performances. I mean, Uruguay even got a red card, but hey, those guys sucked all tournament, so a game against them was never going to be a pretty spectacle. Now, no matter how you felt about Spain's performances, the reality was that they hadn't conceded a goal. They were defensively solid. Okay, attacking-wise, they weren't as creative as many of us thought they would be, but they topped the group. As we saw from Portugal's group, it's not always a sure thing to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. So no matter what we thought of the performances, Spain had done their job.
Spain has finally arrived at the World Cup with a big win over Saudi Arabia. The Spanish able to bounce back after what was a shocker in their first game. And the most important thing, Lamine Yamal is back for Spain. So much so that he only needed 10 minutes to open the scoring. And Mikel Oyarzabal, who also had a first game to forget. We know that stats about him not touching the ball in the first 30 minutes of that game against Cabo Verde. Well, we can put that to rest now. But overall, Spain finally feel like they have arrived, Ale.
Then in the round of 32, they completely spanked Austria. Looked far and away the better team, and we got flashes again of what Spain could achieve, what they could look like when the attack was clicking. Because this whole time, and in fact the whole tournament, their defense has been rock solid. As we will see later in the video, they only conceded one goal, and that was to Belgium.
A normal service resumed for Lamine Yamal, it would seem, in this game. The same could be said about Spain as well. Many questions about Spain coming into this performance, but they answered a few of those today, didn't they, Maka?
Yeah, I thought they were very impressive, Kate, to be honest. I think they've laboured at times throughout this World Cup, certainly in the group stage, but I think it's because they found it too easy. They knocked the ball around without making a huge amount of chances, but today they certainly stepped it up, and some of the bigger players, the Pedris, the Rodris, control the game. Lamine Yamal, of course, is always the danger man, and they scored the goals and won easily, won at a canter in the end. And it was the best performance by a mile so far from Spain in the World Cup.
Against Austria, it was once again Oyarzabal dominating everything. Another brace for the man, linking up with Cucurella. When you see him putting goals in, and the midfield dominating, and the backline looking that good, it gives you a little bit more confidence in the Spain side. Then they followed that match with a 1-0 win over Portugal. Now the scoreline will not show dominance, and if you watch the highlights, they won from Mikel Merino doing what he does best, which is scoring a late winner. But Portugal had no chance of ever winning this game. They never looked like they were in it. They barely created any opportunities. And yeah, it was not the most entertaining game, but once again, Spain dominated. The midfield was all theirs. Vitinha and João Neves, supposedly the best central midfielders in the world, the duo from the PSG team that won back-to-back Champions Leagues, they could not get anywhere near Rodri or Fabian Ruiz or even Pedri, despite him not having the best performance or even the best World Cup campaign. So again, not the prettiest of performances, but Spain hadn't conceded a goal. They looked in control for the majority of the 90 minutes, and boom, they were through to the quarterfinals. Now, it was in this match that they finally conceded. A header to De Ketelaere, and boom, Belgium had equalized against the run of play against Spain, because once again, in this match, despite the score being 1-1 at the time when De Ketelaere equalized, Spain were completely in control. They had all the chances. They had the rhythm of the play. They were all over Belgium. Belgium just got that one opportunity and they converted. And naturally, they couldn't ride on that high for too long, and Mikel Merino, once again, stepped up when the team needed him the most with another late winner. Now, this game at the end, it got a little bit iffy. Unai Simon was making some bozo moments at the back, which again, those moments made me think maybe France has a really good chance of dominating this game, because who knows what Unai Simon is going to do towards the back end of matches. But Spain got the job done. They got rid of Belgium, who were coming off a huge win over the United States. And before you know it, the team that had tied Cape Verde in the first match of the World Cup was now in the semis.
France against Spain. I tell you what, you watched the first exchanges of this game, you thought Spain are going to run away with this match. They absolutely dominated things. They deservedly took the lead, but then out of nowhere, Belgium get the equaliser. And then it was pretty much a fair contest, difficult to call. Spain had their chances. Belgium were organised defensively, frustrated Spain. But in the end, it's a goalkeeping error that gives Merino the winner as Spain beat Belgium by 2-1.
Now, the semifinals, I thought France was going to win too. I thought they were going to narrowly win 2-1 off of 2 transition goals. I knew that Spain would dominate the midfield because Rodri and Fabian Ruiz had been so much better than the likes of Rabiot and Kone and Tchouaméni. But I was a bit surprised by how many pundits and how many articles had come in, and the discussion online was in the narrative that France were just going to walk away and run away with this result.
With that, JD, we're going to need a score prediction from you. How do you think it all shakes out?
They're still not going to beat France. I put my neck out there and say to you, France are the best team in world football. They are incredible. I've never seen anything like this. Their verticality in going from front to back, and also trusting how explosive some of these players are. There's just too many strong links on the pitch for this France team to fail at this stage. And there's too many players that understand the pressures of big moments and usually deliver. That for me to look past this French team.
Mikel Oyarzabal strikes first for Spain. Porro, Olmo, Pedro Porro! It's happening for Spain! Look at those! A spectacular Spanish display. Spain will play the World Cup final.
I was a bit surprised to see that, because historically, yes, Spain had not played this exact version of France. At Euro 2024, Dembele was not in the form that he is in now. Olise wasn't there. And then in the Nations League, that back line was not the same one that we were going to see at the 2026 World Cup. But still, nobody was giving Spain a chance, and I thought that was weird because stylistically, they were the worst matchup for France, because they could dominate the midfield, they were organized at the back so they wouldn't leave a ton of space, and they had enough firepower that if it clicked, they could get goals. But like I said, I myself thought that France would edge it. Well, it ended up being a performance where Spain made it look like men versus kids. They absolutely destroyed France, dominated them from start to finish. I mean, people were talking about this France team being better than 2002 Brazil. These guys look more like 2026 Brazil. It took them forever to get a shot on target. Ballon d'Or winner Ousmane Dembele was non-existent. Michael Olise couldn't string together a pass. Mbappe's only highlight was punching Unai Simon. Spain were just all over them. They dominated possession. They had the best chances. They were so organized defensively. And they took out the country that everybody had considered favorites throughout the tournament.
When I watched that performance today, I saw a lot more individuals, people trying to look good on their own. And I saw a Spain team that played as a team. I know it's very difficult because you're obviously still playing. But when you're watching it, how does that performance come to light? We haven't seen that in all this tournament, and then in one big moment, I don't know, maybe the egos took over, maybe it's about looking good for themselves, I don't know.
And we should have seen this coming given how much France struggled against Paraguay. Because Spain did the same thing. Obviously, they didn't play as dirty as Paraguay or just sit in a deep block the whole game, but they reduced the space in between the lines. And as we saw from that game, France, against a low block, against a compact defensive style, cannot create opportunities. And Spain, I mean, they're significantly better than Paraguay, but they stayed organized, got everybody behind the ball, and then when Spain had the ball, France were just running around like chickens with their head cut off. They couldn't get near them. And what makes Spain's performances during this entire World Cup be so impressive is that they've done it with a lot of their bigger names not playing up to their standards. Let's start with Pedri, for example. He has not had a good World Cup campaign. I mean, he's been okay, but if we're going to consider him one of, if not the best central midfielder in the world, then we have to hold him to a higher standard. And he simply has not been good enough. And that's why he was dropped for Fabian Ruiz. And Spain has looked incredible ever since that guy came in. I mean, I have talked about in past videos how criminally underrated Fabian Ruiz is. And you're seeing it again at this World Cup. Him and Rodri have looked as good as they did at the 2024 Euros. They've outplayed every single midfield they've played against. They destroyed the France midfield. They destroyed the Portugal midfield. Nobody can come close to them. The level of technical ability, but also having the capability to win duels, to cover ground. Like I said, nobody's come near them. In all of Spain's games, even if they haven't been super high scoring, nobody has controlled the midfield better than they have. And like I said, they were doing it without Pedri, one of the biggest names on the team, one of the biggest talents, not playing that good. Then you have another Barca guy that's underperformed, and that's Lamine Yamal. Again, he's had some great moments, but considering that during the club season, this guy looked like the best player in the world, he has not been at the level that we expected from him. I think even if you ask Yamal himself, he'll tell you that. Yet despite him not being as good as he was at Euro 2024, being gangbanged constantly on the right-hand side with multiple defenders, Spain have still found ways to score. They've found ways to utilize him. And then you have Nico Williams, who because of injuries has mostly been on the bench. It's been Baena who has started on the left wing. Again, it hasn't mattered. Spain have still done the job. And one of the biggest reasons for that is because a lot of the players who were good in 2024 are still playing at a high level, even if they're not the biggest names. For example, Dani Olmo has had a fantastic tournament. A magician in between the lines. So good in tight spaces against these low, compact blocks. He'll do these little flicks, turn away from pressure. And some of his turns might look easy from our angle because we're looking at the TV from the broadcast angle, as if we're playing FIFA. For Olmo to do those turns in real time, it's so impressive. Then you have the back line. It's been fantastic. Cucurella defends with every fiber of his being. This guy's the definition of bleeding for the badge. I think some people were laughing at the fact that Real Madrid paid a lot of money to bring him from Chelsea. That's the exact type of player they need. If you've seen him play for Spain, he just never stops grinding. He's good going forward with those overlaps. He's gotten multiple assists in this tournament. And then defensively, he'll do what needs to be done. And he has a great track record against some of the best right wingers in the world. He's put Mo Salah in his back pocket. He's done it to Lamine Yamal. And then he did it again to Olise and Ousmane Dembele. And then on the right side, you have Pedro Porro. We always knew this guy was good going forward, but because of how bad Tottenham were, his defensive mistakes were amplified. But now for the Spain national team, he has not been a defensive liability. And he's still given the Spanish national team quality going forward, like his goal against France.
Pedro Porro!
And then the two center backs, I mean, phenomenal from Laporte and Pau Cubarsí. Cubarsí, I kept trying to tell people, when this guy's not playing in a kamikaze high line, when he's not playing in Barca's back four that's higher than Snoop Dogg, and he's playing next to a veteran, somebody who's experienced, someone who's a reliable partner, he's a great center back. That's why Cubarsí's best individual season came when he was playing next to Inigo Martinez. And now he's doing the same thing on the national team by playing next to Laporte. I cannot believe this guy was in the Saudi League 2 years ago. He's still playing at the same level that I saw from him at Manchester City. Great center back, comfortable on the ball, really good in winning duels. And him and Kubarsi have been excellent. It's why Spain haven't conceded a ton of goals. Yes, it helps that they dictate possession so much, so naturally teams don't have a ton of opportunities to break them down. But that duo has been fantastic. A great back line, a great midfield, and even with their X factors, their top attacking talents not being at the level that many people expected from them, Spain continued to get results. And they have shown why they were the favorites going into this tournament. Nobody should be doubting them now. If you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you will love this one too. Check it out right here.